I needed every one of those days I served to feel like what it was like to find my purpose in life, which I've done, and that's to help others. So if I can help one kid from going down the path I went, hopefully many more. But my goal now is to do some motivational speaking, hopefully when this COVID is over, and help people. I'm not money driven anymore. I lost 19 years chasing the dollar. Now, I'm sure the universe will give me abundance when the time is right. But until then, I'm going to do me. I'm going to help people.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. We are Jess and BJ, and we're on a mission to create a better world. Through this podcast, we share stories of people looking, finding, and living their purpose. If you're a YTP junkie, then you've heard me say many times that we are all here on purpose. There are no mistakes in this universe, and no matter what your life circumstances may be, you are never off your path. Everything is always moving you towards your highest expression. We have an addiction in this world to label everything and everyone. We hold opinions about where people are versus where we think they should be. We judge people for their actions and behaviors, and all the while ignoring that life itself is a spiritual path that loves us unconditionally, and we are all heading in the same direction. For some, the path comes with extreme intensity, while others seem to cruise the ways of life from a seat of comfort. But remember, until we walk in another's shoes, we are only seeing what makes sense to us through the filter of our own mind. Today, we are graced with the presence of a beautiful man with a compassionate heart who for many years lived a life of crime and violence through a massively constricted heart. Anthony Bucci's actions caught up with him in his 30s when he received a 19-year sentence in federal prison. While in solitary confinement, a place that he was no stranger to during his time in prison, he experienced a spiritual awakening, and from that moment on, he steered his focus towards a new life, the one he lives today. It's a life of kindness, vulnerability, service, and non-harm. He's dedicated to assisting others and raising awareness of the natural alignment of eating a vegan diet. We have been eagerly awaiting this conversation, and we are so grateful to be connected with meaningful stories such as his. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jess. Hi, BJ. Much respect. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so good to have you here. As you know, I first heard you on the Vegan Danielle podcast, and gosh, maybe it was like 5 words in, and I knew that we had to connect deeper. I knew that I wanted to share your story because there was this kindness about you that was so evident, and to live a life for so many years that was in contrast to that. I think it's just such a truth that so many people live like under this, almost like this delusion, right? And it goes against our nature, and it closes us off to who we truly are. And you're discovering that, like who you truly are, and happiness coming from within. But you had to find your way here through a pretty intense story. And so I'd like to open the podcast with you sharing your story.
Where would you like me to begin? Childhood?
Great. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, whatever like that first thing is that comes to mind, just go with that.
Okay, well, I grew up second generation Italian home. The man of the house was to provide, to put food on the table, clothing, good house over the head, and you were a real man. So that's the way I lived for many, many years. I had some role models around me that I followed, and it was the wrong path. So it took 2 prison sentences to awaken me. The first one was 41 months. The second one, I got 21 years. Chip on my shoulder the second time in. Like you said, I was getting in a lot of trouble. Between the 2 sentences, I had about 3 years of solitary confinement under my belt. I knew I couldn't do anymore. I disappointed too many people. So I went to solitary confinement. It was either not come out alive or change my life. And I chose the second. I did a 180. I've been following that till the wheels fall off right now. Never going back.
And how did that belief system that, the man provided, how did that influence your role as a husband and a dad? Like, did that give you, I guess I'm leading you in this question, but, did that give you certain permissions to live in a way as long as you were putting, a roof over their head and food on their plate?
That's exactly how I felt. I felt as long I was a great father, great husband, even though I was never around. I wasn't there to talk to. My kids, I wasn't there. Like if they woke up in the middle of the night, it was always the mother, my ex-wife, holding the baton. So, I had a lot of years to reflect upon it when I got to prison. And then I did a lot of reading and soul searching. And then I realized how much of a selfish human being I was. The path I was going in was definitely the wrong direction. And you can't ever have time back. Time is so precious. So rather than look in the rearview mirror, that when I had my spiritual awakening, I decided to go down the right path and try to make up to, with my kids and society the best I could. And that's what I'm doing today.
And I want you to share that story about the spiritual awakening, but let's give our listeners a little detail if you're open to share, like, what were these 2 prison sentences? The first one, like, what got you there?
Well, I was plant-based for a long time. I just didn't know it. The first time was distribution of marijuana, a plant. And the second time was for cocaine, coca, another plant. So those are the 2 sentences. How
did you get involved with that? How did you get involved with selling drugs? Was it people that you just knew that you grew up with? Did you spend a lot of time as a kid, outside of the home? Or how do you think, where do you see your life taking that direction?
Well, at a very young age, my mother took us out of a very abusive household. She worked 3 jobs, so I was running the streets young. I had some role models, like I said, that weren't pillars of the community. So I followed that direction. I loved them, my cousin, he's not alive anymore, but he was ruthless. He was a gangster. And, that's all I knew.
What was that moment in confinement? I think it was solitary confinement that you had that shift. Like, where was that? Can you pinpoint an exact moment where you were like, I can't be doing this?
Yeah, I hit rock bottom. My wife had just left me. My children were mad at me, second time in prison. They were upset with me. My friends had all fallen off the map. I got in trouble. And like I said, it was at that moment I said, either I'm not coming out of here alive or I'm going to change my life. And I said, God, please give me a sign. And a minute later, I got a knock on my door. It was a prison guard. I was in Pennsylvania by the West Virginia border, over 500 miles from home. And this guard was from my area, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I had knew him from another prison. He knocked on the door. He was doing an overtime shift. It was like all the stars were aligned. And he started offering me paper. And I was like lying on my bunk in a 6x10 cell alone, where I would be for months, where I had, like I said, 3 years under my belt. And I was like, I'm all set. And he's like, come on, Bucci, come get some paper. You can't survive in there just exercising. And, so I was like, that's when it hit me. I was like, I've always wanted to write a book. I was always good at writing. I said, this will occupy my mind. And I started writing Infinity Crew, my book, my masterpiece, and it saved my life. And that was the defining moment in my decision to change.
Did you have, because, wow, that's just like, I think all the stars did align, right? And you were able to see that. Up until that moment, what was occupying your mind?
Being a ruthless thug. Before I got in trouble. And then, you know what I mean? But all you meant at that moment then?
Yeah, I guess you're in prison and this guy came and gave you paper and you're like, well, I'm a good writer. I should begin to, put down on paper what I'm thinking about. What was in your mind? Because you were probably in solitary confinement for a little while before that. Like, what will you think about all day?
You want to be honest with you? Ending it, giving up, not going on. Like I said, I disappointed so many people. I didn't want to continue on that path.
Prison, the first time you got 41 months. And did that change you at all?
That was crime school. That was like a slap on the wrist. That was a slap on the wrist for a guy like me. I didn't learn a thing other than make contacts and meet, new people in the industry.
So you learned how to be
networking,
better at being a ruthless thug.
Yeah, I found a few more docks that I could pull my truck into. Nothing good.
Yeah. And the second sentence where it sounds like they were, making an quote unquote an example of you, giving you such a huge sentence. What was that like in the courtroom when that came down on you?
You would have thought I killed somebody. I got 21 years for a one-day conspiracy that took about 15 minutes, $84,000 worth of drugs. It was a one-day conspiracy, like I said. When I got out of prison the first time, I had actually turned my life around. Then my sister got diagnosed with cancer, and I started using drugs, which I had never done before, just, very little recreationally. But I was so upset because my sister was like my best friend. I went the wrong direction there again, and I started using drugs heavily. I thought it could mask the pain. But, in the long run, all it did was make everything worse. So, that's how I ended up where I ended up.
And I heard you talk about with Danielle on that podcast when you received the sentence walking out of the courtroom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I just, that my jaw dropped. I was like, whoa, that's what he was thinking about. That's crazy.
Well, when I walked out of that courtroom, you would have thought I was a Marine. I would not show any weakness. I actually stopped on the way out and gave the judge a piece of my mind. Forgive me. You gave me 21 years for a one-day conspiracy. That's crazy. Nobody got hurt, but because I wouldn't cooperate with the government and tell on, police force, they threw the book at me, which is fine. I can look in the mirror every day and know I did the right thing as far as morally, that aspect, but I shouldn't have been where I was. What everything else I did was immoral. So I should have I've learned the lesson, but back then, when I think about it, I should have been loyal to my family, to my parents, to people around me, and not been in the situation. I put my into the wrong direction. But now I'm right on path. And like I said, I can only look back. I can't continue to beat myself up. Sometimes I do. All those years I lost. The struggle is real. It's hard. I got 19 years I lost in my life. And I blame myself for it. I take full responsibility. But sometimes it's hard.
Do you see that time? I know you just said like you lost 19 years of your life, but can any part of you now have some clarity where you see those 19 years was almost a gift to give you the mindset that you're at now and where you're going to go in the future with the time you do have?
Yes. I needed every one of those days I served to feel like what it was like, to find my purpose in life, which I've done, and that's to help others. So if I can help one kid from going down the path I went, hopefully many more. But my goal now is to do some motivational speaking, hopefully when this COVID is over, and help people. I'm not money driven anymore. I lost 19 years chasing the dollar. Now, I'm sure the universe will give me abundance when the time is right. But until then, I'm going to do me. I'm going to help people.
Yeah, you were telling me that, you've had Bentleys and, huge houses, and you had done an Instagram post. This is before the three of us hopped on a call last week, but you had done an Instagram post with this huge house and And you talked about how like you had all the things, but there was no happiness there.
I was empty within, but I had a 5,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
You know, I drove a Bentley. I was in Vegas all the time, California, place out in Vegas when I got arrested. They took everything. I lost everything. You know, but I found myself, and like I said, it took all those years to find me.
Let's talk about the writing of that book. So this guard, which is so interesting. I wonder if does this guard know that, you know, bringing you that paper was the turning point in your life? Do you know if he knows that?
Probably not, unless he listens to interviews.
Yeah, that's so interesting to think. And I think that it really speaks to, he obviously had some kind of hit to bring you that paper. And so often we get a hit to email somebody or text somebody or say thank you or send a note, and we don't do it. We say, oh, I'm in the middle of something, or I'm driving. Like, you can pull the car over and you can take action on those things. And I think that really speaks to it, because if he didn't bring you that paper, you know, we may, most likely we wouldn't be talking right now. So let's talk about the book that you wrote, Infinity Crew. So did you feel like it just kind of moved through you? Was it like you couldn't keep up with the words, or did you struggle with it? Or what did that experience bring to you?
Well, besides writing, my mother used to send me books every day. So that's how I got turned on to plant-based and all that. So it was all like one spiritual involvement. It was like all my core values changed over those months. It was epic. You know, I got rid of all my negativity. I did an ethical reset. You know, I read the book, you know, Laws of Attraction. And I did so much learning and writing. Like, I was consumed by writing. They only give you, the paper they give you is like 5 inches long by like 4 inches wide. It's small little paper. And I had every nook and cranny of that paper with my book, front, back. I was writing on napkins. Like, I was on a mission. It was like I finally woke up and saw the light.
And tell us about the book. What's the subject matter of the book? I mean, the cover, which is behind you, is pretty intense.
Yeah. It's about 5 kids that meet in a reform school. They come from all ethical backgrounds. It's a story of friendship, loyalty, what I think loyalty should be like. Because both times I went to prisons, dear friends put me in there. So my book is about loyalty, friendship. They're sophisticated, you know, criminals. The lead character is vegan, Vinny Bruno. There's never been a lead character, you know, gangster that's vegan. He's torn between, you know, doing the right things and, you know, crime. It's like, it has all kinds of twists and turns.
And it may or may not have been based on actual events. I see that there's names that have been changed.
It's based on true crimes, but the names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Yeah, that's good. That's probably very good for all of us that are talking about the book. And so let's talk a little bit about how you had said you educated yourself, but you ended up writing your own compassionate release. So share that story with our listeners, because that's amazing. Like, you got yourself in there and you got yourself out.
Yeah. One of the things I studied was the law. Before that, I had done 6 or 7 of my own motions. The First Circuit Court of Appeals called me the poster child for tenacity. Like, I wouldn't give up, you know, because, you know, I thought, okay, I did the crime. I take full responsibility, but there was too many, like, there was no gun involved in the crime. And I got 7 years for brandishing a weapon. 9 surveillance teams never saw a weapon, but I got 7 years for it. You know, stuff like that. Anyways, I lost all my appeals. So back in 2016, my mom had a stroke. She had a rear spinal tap, a stroke through her spine, and she became paralyzed. So I had filed compassionate release to try to get home to take care of her, because I was the only living immediate family member. My sister passed away when I was arrested. My father died in 2012. My stepfather had passed. So the warden denied me. It was basically a boilerplate, you know, denial, like they always do. But when they passed prison reform, gave me another avenue into the court. So I found a loophole in the prison reform where I could go directly to court if I got denied by the warden again. So I put in 2019, I put in a motion for compassionate release, denial. So I went to federal court and I got some traction. The judge ordered a video conference hearing. So I wrote some lawyers. I got a great lawyer out of Massachusetts. Her name is Allison Corey. She came on board. She tweaked my motion that I did myself, because I had been studying the paralegal, like I said, the law. And we had a video conference, and I'm proud of this. I was the first federal inmate to get out on a parental compassionate release. It had never been done before. Before me, it was either a spouse or a child. You had to be the only one alive to take care of them. That was immediate family. So I personally broadened the horizon of compassionate release to include parent and somebody other than a spouse or child. And now other inmates are getting out. So that I'm proud of that.
So that's that's your tenacity, right? Your continuous energy moving forward, even though people are saying no, they're stamping denied, they're saying you shouldn't be doing this. Even up to this day, as you're vegan, like there's other ways to go about it. How can you recall where you got that from? Or have you just always been tenacious, maybe sports or just an innate value?
Probably from growing up with one parent and my mother was always working. So I always had to overcome the odds. And my mother was my role model, seeing her never give up on us, working 3 jobs. We slept on floors. Then we got an apartment finally. Then we got a house, all from my mother's tenacity. So I followed in her footsteps.
It's sort of, would you say it's sort of natural now? Like it's just innate. Like you can't ever see giving up.
Never. You can never pursue your dreams unless you have the courage to go after them.
Yeah. Did you ever see your dad again?
Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I've never discussed this, but he started visiting me in prison. We actually were reconciled, our differences. He was a heavy drinker, like I said. He stopped drinking. He had diabetes. He got diabetes and lymphatic leukemia, and he changed. He actually showed me a little compassion. He used to visit me every month, for a while. So, things got patched up.
Is he still alive?
No, he passed away in 2012.
Do you feel peace around that reconciliation?
Yeah. I always, I spoke to him. I wrote him a letter from my heart, and that's when he started coming to visit me. But, my whole life, though, one time did he ever say, I love you?
Did you get those words from him at any point?
Never.
Nope. How do you reconcile that?
It's hard.
Do you love your kids exponentially because of that?
I tell them every time I see them, many times. Yeah. I never want to follow in that path, but my grandparents were like that too. They were very emotional, from the old country, from Italy. And I saw it. They never really showed any of us love, especially him and my aunt and my uncle. So,
it takes that.
We were just talking about, tradition or, these things that you just do every year, like Thanksgiving or the family things that always happen. And to break that, you're seen as the outlier. You're seen as, well, why would you ever want to stop that? And in this example you're just giving, you're firsthandly, you're changing the way you communicate.
Yeah, I broke that cycle, but I disappointed myself. I said to myself, because my dad took off when we were little, I was young. Me and my sister were babies, and he moved to Cleveland, and we never saw him much. But I said, I'm never going to do that. I'm always going to tell my kids I love them and all that. And then I end up going to prison twice. So that was the hardest part of being in prison, is knowing that I failed in that way. What I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you broke that cycle. That's like a generational cycle that you broke.
Yeah.
And that is what you have the option to focus on. Because as you know, like you just can't beat yourself up anymore. I'm sure you did plenty of that to the point where you didn't want to be here anymore.
Sure.
You know?
I did a number on myself.
Yeah, I bet you did. So the book, let's talk about when you were released from prison. Actually, BJ was just kind of touched on the family gatherings around Thanksgiving, and you were released in October and you had already been introduced to the plant-based lifestyle. So, and you come from, the Italian culture is very much around food and tradition and, coming together as a family. And did you disrupt that at Thanksgiving that year?
Oh, yeah. I put that house upside down. My aunt cooked this amazing meal by, Italian heritage. And I was sitting there eating, I wouldn't eat anything but my plant-based diet because I had already, converted to vegan then. And they were all so upset with me. She made meatballs, sausages, the turkey. Turkey used to be my favorite. Everything, eggplant with the cheese, just, full, the whole 9 yards of Italian food. And here I am eating a fake turkey and roasted potatoes. And my aunt, because she got so mad, she said, "I'm never cooking again. This is the last holiday." They couldn't even comprehend, what I was doing. I was breaking another cycle.
Yeah, and that's something that I think holds people back from changing their diet is, oh, well, my family or my mother-in-law, or it's the holidays, I'll do it after. And all in the meantime, they're, eating food that they don't necessarily want to eat. And so here you are, you haven't had a holiday with your family for 15 and a half years, and you show up and you're not partaking in it, but it sounds like you stayed steadfast. And was part of that just like your freedom and your ability to be able to eat plant-based? Because I know I've heard you say that in prison, it was really tough to do that.
Oh yeah, because they don't really they give you $1.25 a day to feed you. So everything's like meat and potatoes, and the meat is like 5 years old and frozen, and it's like the worst meat available on the earth, probably. So, I broke that cycle of eating meat when my buddy was a cook and he told me, how old it was and what we were eating. So then I switched to basically tuna and any kind of vegetables I could get, oatmeal, stuff like that. But sometimes, like when I got in trouble, you have to eat what you have to eat to survive, or else you're going to starve.
Yeah.
So
coming out of prison, what's that transition like? Because you went away, a lot has happened in 15 years.
It was unbelievable because I was thrust into society with no warning. I mean, I knew I had the hearing, but I never expected to leave that day. So I got immediate release, no reintegration, no halfway house, nothing. So what I had to do was I stayed in the house. I'll never forget. I had my son, all my kids were at the house. We had, a good get together. So then when they left, I had my son drop me off at Target. So I walked into Target. It was like 9:30. I didn't even have a toothbrush, nothing. So I walked into Target and I was so overwhelmed. I had such anxiety. I'll never forget. I walked out of Target. I just put my basket down. I couldn't take it. It was just crazy. Like hearing the intercom, 20 minutes till closing, then people walking around. I just dropped the little, what do you call the thing? You put the shopping
basket.
The basket. I put the basket down. I walked out. There's a liquor store next door. I bought some Tito's, vegan. Went home and had 2 shots. Brushed my teeth with my finger. It was tough. I had to have counseling. I couldn't leave the house. I got too much anxiety. The first month was really, really rough.
What were some of the techniques that you learned to calm yourself in the face of that anxiety? A lot of people are facing anxiety right now as, they have been quarantined in their house. Some people pretty extreme. I've heard stories of people that I know pretty close to my family who haven't left their house since March and they're getting their groceries delivered. And some people are just starting to venture out. And there's a lot of anxiety that's alive and well right now. That's, very real for people. So what were some of the things that helped you get a hold of this?
Well, besides the 2 shots of Tito's,
Yeah, besides that.
I did some meditating. I lived by, when I changed my life, I started living by the law of attraction. So I was sending out positive vibes to the universe. I was asking for help. I was, I made some phone calls to some, people I knew that were, similar to me. And just basically calm myself down, talking to my mother. My mother's my rock, finally home with her after all these years. That was calming, just being free. But it came with a price. Like I said, I was anxiety. I was scared to go out. Then I sought counseling. I went to counseling for like a couple months. And then, I slowly integrated and eased back into society.
Your meditation practice, because we have a lot of listeners who are repeat listeners, and we talk about meditation and mindfulness and the power of the mind. And how did you start meditating, and what does your practice look like now?
I meditate for when I do meditate for I haven't been slacking lately, but back then I was doing it for 30 minutes at a time. I had my mantra, and I just closed myself off from the rest of the world and just focused on my breathing. And, it wasn't easy though, because my mind was everywhere. So meditation back then was really tough, but it's okay now. Everything's good.
But you had that, had that tenacity.
Yeah, it's like you have to have tenacity on this spiritual path.
Oh yeah.
There is so much vying for your attention, and there's so much cheap and easy solutions, which are instantaneous and so temporary, like the Tito's.
And Target, man, what a gift, because there's people that go into Target every day, and they don't even, none of that stuff even comes into their awareness. They're just sifting through and going away. But you had this heightened, we can call it anxiety, but it's you were aware. You were super hyper aware of everything around you, which a lot of people I don't think get that, don't have that ability.
Well, in prison, you live by that fight or flight. It's always, you're always ready for something. So when I walked into Target, there was so many people, because it was, near closing time, how people rush around. So I was like, it was crazy. I was on high alert for nothing. Now I look back and laugh. What was I thinking? I was going to get jumped. You know what I mean? In Target.
So as you start to change, and we're kind of going back and forth on the timeline here, but I'm just pulling on threads because that just made me think about something. As when you first go into prison, I'm assuming it's kind of like a dog, where you got to mark your territory. And then, but now you've got the spiritual awakening. You're writing a book, you're educating yourself, you're writing compassionate releases. There's a part of you that's opening and softening. Did you become vulnerable while in prison?
It's funny you said that, because when I got out of the spirit, I call it a shoe, but I got out of solitary confinement and I had the spiritual awakening. My friends from Boston and other friends were like, "What happened to you? Did they break you in there? Why you at?" Because I volunteered and I took care of sick and terminally ill inmates, right, on a volunteer basis. And they saw me like I wasn't flying off the handle. I mean, once in a while, everybody has a weak moment, but I was like a completely changed person. And they were all like, "What happened to you? Did they break you? In other words, you can't take it anymore and you're just too scared to go back." And they couldn't even understand the journey I was on, even though I tried to explain it to a couple of my friends. But, they see being good and all that in prison as weakness, when really compassion, as I know, is strength. But they couldn't, it wasn't in the realm of possibility that a guy like me could do a complete 180 that quickly.
But I'm thinking you had already kind of earned your respect by then, where nobody was going to push you around because of this new Anthony. You already had your...
The new Anthony said many times, unless you can say what you want, but don't disrespect me, call me a rat or something like that, because I was a stand-up guy. But if you called me an asshole or something, before I would punch you in the mouth. But when I got out, unless somebody physically, I got in an altercation, I would say, "Put your hands on me and watch what happens. They're going to med flight you out of here, bro." But other than that, there's no problem. And so people got it that, I just changed. I wasn't weak. At first they took kindness for weakness, but then they saw the other side of the beast once in a while when it had to happen. But other than that, I was good because, I already had that respect. I went to trial. I didn't tell on anybody. So,
I'm thinking about Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid. If you've ever seen that movie, he's this gentle master, but then he goes and he takes on all those
because they
attacked first, and he takes them all down. And sometimes you do have to stand up and fight, but not to be the instigator of it.
No, I became the voice of reason. From the antagonist to the voice of reason. That was a big, huge change.
Did you have some friends fall away when you came out and there's this new Anthony there? Did some of the friends in your circle sort of fall off communications? Well,
BJ, there's an old saying, if you have a handful of friends in this world, you got something. And I didn't even have that because over the years, there was only a few friends of mine that stuck by me. Like one friend, my friend Brian, used to drive my mother wherever I was. Like, that's a real friend. Keep in touch, call my mother, make sure she's okay. I only had like 3 or 4 guys like that. From guys, supposedly I had hundreds of friends, then I found out who my real friends were. So I keep my circle real small now. I'm like a lone wolf, But if they send me out, the old saying, they throw you out to the wolves. Well, if they do that to me, I come back to pack leader. Capiche?
Yeah, capiche. You got some really interesting pictures on your website, pictures of when you were incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And there's some when you're smiling. And there's one, though, where I looked at that photo and it was devoid of, it was just like, I don't know, the only word I can think of is it was almost like this evilness was coming through your eyes, but it was clouding who you really were. I mean, it's really interesting to see. And then you see more smiling pictures, which is the Anthony that, I've gotten to know very briefly over these last couple of weeks. But like I said, in your voice, I hear so much kindness and compassion in your voice. When you were growing up, when you were in the height of, living the life that you wanted to live, as long as you were providing for your family and crime and violence and things like that, were you ever in touch with that part of you that you're in touch with now? Could you feel that part of you, or was it just clouded?
Well, I'll go back to the picture first. You hit the nail right on the head. At one point in time, I was numb. My heart was black, and then after my spiritual awakening, it slowly started getting redder and redder. Right now it's ruby red. I'm I'm all about kindness, compassion, and all that. But at one point, I lost complete sight of myself. But to answer your question, I was out there selling drugs and doing what I was doing. And I thought it was a good person because I know I said this on 1 or 2 other interviews, but I would go into a place where I would see people in need and I would throw them $100 bill. I remember an old couple, I'll never forget, it was near Christmas and they were doing their laundry. They couldn't afford, to do a second load of laundry. They said they would dry it at home. And I overheard it. I walked up to them both and I handed them each $100 bill and they would have thought I was like Robin Hood, living Robin Hood. And that's what I called myself, I'm Robin Hood. Because I'm selling drugs, but yet I'm cleansing my soul, giving people money, little kids, stuff like that. If I see a kid someplace with the mother and he's like, I want that, I would buy it for him. And so by doing good things, I thought I was cleansing my soul, but I really wasn't. I was just masking the pain or whatever I wanted to, would call it, just masking what I was doing. So, and as I look back, I now know that was just, I had a good heart, but I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing because I thought it was okay. And it was, it really wasn't, bottom line.
That the brain can rationalize anything, right? So yeah, your heart was super strong, but the brain can be like, well, I can eat vegan while I'm out in public, but when I get home, I can, have this because I've done a good job today. And that's just, one example. Or when you start to walk down the spiritual path and you start this awakening, that mind is going to hesitate because there's so many things that are routine, so many things that are like ingrained, and you constantly have to be onto your mind. Do you feel that your meditation practice has allowed you to sort of have a little bit of space between what your actions are and what your mind is saying? Do you feel, basically, do you have a thought and you have the action and then there's some space in between? Do you feel like that meditation practice or your breathing or being able to slow down a little bit has improved that ability to act on it?
Well, when I'm, consciously aware of things, I don't have any urge to do anything bad anymore. I don't have any urge to eat eat animals. I'm living that animal cruelty free life. So the meditation for me is more just relaxation and, calming myself in different situations. But I don't even feel any urge. Like I don't need to even think like you just said, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the old Anthony, it took years to get to this point where I'm at, but years ago, yeah.
Well, that's what we see, right? You can look at anybody on social media and you're seeing them where they're at, right? And people have a hard time grasping all the work that you've done and where you were before. Like it takes a long time, but it takes a little bit every day over a long period of time if you're willing to make that commitment. So it's not an instantaneous process by any means. Yeah. It's not an overnight awakening. No.
It took years. No, it's 2009 to now. So it's 12 years of trying to better myself.
Yeah. So let's talk about your wake up call to eating. So do you remember, did you have like an aha moment where it just, the switch flipped and you were like, whoa, like eating vegan just made so much sense to you?
I already knew the path I was going on. As soon as I got out, I knew I was changing. And I was under home confinement. So for a year I had a curfew. So I met a girl. She was vegan because I wouldn't, date anybody else but a vegan girl. It's my girl, Natalie. And, she basically watched movies together and she took her time and she just, really educated me more. And so that's why, it was easy to convert because I was already down with it. And then she put me over the edge, and since then, no turning back.
What
veganism is my calling.
Yeah. What book did your mom send you in prison? Do you remember?
I don't even remember the name. There's so many of them.
She did. Rosemary. Yeah. We should call her by name because she has such a beautiful name, Rosemary. What a beautiful light for you.
Yeah, she's amazing. But it was a plant-based book.
Do you remember any of the documentaries that you watched with Natalie? Anything that just clicked for you or anything?
Game Changers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, talk about that.
That was a game changer.
Yeah. What about that movie changed the game for you?
The way just everything. The way the animals are treated, what we're putting into our bodies, the environment. It was just like, wow. Like, I didn't have access to these documentaries in prison. And nothing hits home like seeing it. You know what I mean?
So what is the message that, as the convicted vegan, what is the message that you really want people to be willing to hear?
There's two paths in life, the right path and the wrong path. And everybody has a choice. There's a line that goes through the heart. You can either be a good person or a bad person. And it's never too late to change. So hopefully people choose the right path. But if you don't, you can always turn that car or whatever you're driving and get on that right path.
Yeah. What do you say to people that say, well, it's hard, to be vegan. It's hard to be vegan.
To be honest with you, it is. Because people are brought up like me with a certain understanding, like that animals were put on this world for us to eat. That's the hardest thing to break people's mindset of, because they were grown up like that with the heritage, like you're supposed to eat animals. And me, I thought I was this amazing animal lover because I love dogs and cats. I trained dogs in prison. I had one in my room with me, sleep with me, in the room every night, 13 months at a time. I graduated 2 dogs. One went to a courthouse. One went to a hospital for troubled teens. And I'm calling myself this great dog, animal lover because I'm taking good care of this dog. And, and the hardest part of my whole prison sentence was letting those dogs go, so they could, it was heartbreaking because I was so attached. They were like my therapy dogs. But getting back to the point, here I am with 800,000 species of animals, calling myself an animal lover. Well, my body is a tomb. It's a cemetery for dead animals. It's like, hello, Anthony, wake up. And a lot of people aren't awake yet. People aren't even open to it. So all we can do is lead by example. Hopefully they wake up. Nobody around me, there's not, out of all my people around me, like my kids eat good, most of the time, but, I'm the only vegan. So I'm trying to lead by example, but you can't push it upon people. Like I was ready to turn vegan. So when Natalie, she completed my awakening, that's what I needed. But unless you're at that point, people can't, you know what I mean? You can't force somebody to sit down and watch Game Changers or all these other documentaries or watch video clips of the way these animals are treated and the way they're killed. You just can't. You know what I mean? It's nothing unless somebody's ready.
Yeah, I remember when I definitely had a hidden agenda when I started to eat plant-based, and I would go home and I would be preaching it and judging. I was extremely judging of my my family. Like, how can you guys eat like this? Don't you know? But that's such a great, powerful place to be when we just say, you're on your timeline, I'm on mine. This is the information I have that works well for me, and I'm going to continue to do this. And if you're curious about it, I'm here to provide information. But isn't it challenging is it challenging for you to step back like that and not scream from the mountaintops how good you feel and how beneficial this is for, do you have your moments basically?
I have my moments, but I'm at the point where, it's like beating deaf ears. Unless somebody comes to me and asks, all I can do is, continue to do what I'm doing, feel the way I'm feeling, and look out after me. I have boundaries now. I can't worry about what everybody else is doing. I got to start taking care of number one. So I've been doing a lot of stuff for myself lately, which I haven't been done since I've been out. I've been working so hard. So I've been, doing some grounding and taking time for myself. I did whole colon hydrotherapy. I got 15 and a half years of sludge in my body, in prison. Let me clean out my insides. I'm not eating animals anymore, but, I'm trying to do things for me. Because if I'm not happy and I don't love myself, I can't pass any message on to anybody.
Yeah, that is such an expression of self-love. And you shared a great video. You were on the beach. You were having, it was just like life was just crashing waves on you and you needed to take a break. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I had my negativity was up to my eyeballs. I was short with people. People driving were aggravating me. Just like things people around me that I love was saying, it was really bothering me. I said, you know what? Before I take this out on anybody else and act out of character, because I'm trying to change here, trying to live a positive life. Let me remove myself from the situation, take a day to myself. My cup was empty. Let me try to refill it. So I took a day. I went to the beach, some grounding, did some meditation, watched the ocean, walked around, put the phone on DND. And because the phone can be, treacherous too. It's very, consuming. And, I did me and I needed it. So I made the video. It was actually fun because I felt good at that point. Or shadow boxing with the earth.
And I know you just have such a mission of service on your heart that you're living. But if we're not in service to ourselves, we can't be in service of other people. If we don't love ourselves, we can't really love anybody fully ever. And so we have to put ourselves first. And I mean, putting yourself first has to, in your life journey, it has to involve like some forgiveness of things that you've done in the past. How have you reconciled like to you, what is forgiveness? Is it about the past? Is it about the future? Like, what does it look like to you to forgive yourself so that you can start to allow yourself to love yourself for who you are now?
Well, the first thing I needed to do was apologize to everybody I was close to that I affected in a negative way. And like, I've never laid a finger on any of my children, but I wasn't there for them. Like I said, I wasn't there to hold them. I wasn't there at night to do their homework with them. I wasn't there to spend the quality time they needed. And like my daughters always say, we didn't care about any of that, Dad. We wanted you home. So to make a peace with myself over the years, I wrote them a lot of letters apologizing. But when I got home, I had to sit down with it and talk to every one of them to cleanse my soul correctly. And that's what I did. And we're in a good place right now. Forgiveness is in the air. I'm getting along unbelievable with my kids. My mom, her whole outlook on life has changed now. I'm home, taking care of her. I disappointed her too over the years. No matter what, though, she was always my rock. No matter how I screwed up. So when I got home, we've had long talks. We talk all the time, and she sees the path I'm on, and she always tells me she's proud of me, and wishes I had gotten on this path sooner. But like I said, I needed every day of the time I got to realize where I had to be and what I had to do. And a defining moment in that, to be honest with you, is, like I said, when I got out of solitary confinement, I volunteered and took care of sick and terminally ill inmates. And the second guy I took care of, he ended up dying. And it really put life into perspective, because he got sentenced in the height of the war on drugs. He was doing he wasn't even a lot of drugs, but he got 20 years because they were rough back then on the sentences, like when I got sentenced. And I took care of him right till almost the day he died. And he was so thankful, and we had long talks, and he's like, listen, I wish there was so much I could do, so much I could say to my kids, just everything I was thinking, like he never got a chance to tell his kids. So after he passed, I wrote his daughter a letter, and I told him, I told her everything. She even came and visited me. But my point is, I was not going to make the same mistake or not have the opportunity like he didn't have the opportunity. He realized, but it was too late. So to complete my journey, what I had to do as soon as I got out was make it right with my kids. And that's what we've done.
I think that's so profound, because there's a lot of grudges and grievances that are being held within family members and friends, and lack of forgiveness, and in any kind of belief that we can't forgive or we should not forgive it's really this disrespect for life, because life is so precious. And I believe at our essence, we're all the same. We are the same. And do you believe that as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, unless somebody, like two of my dear friends, put me in prison, I don't forgive them. But I'm leaving it up to the universe. I'm not going back to my old ways. I don't wish them anything bad. The universe will handle it. I don't say anything bad about them. I'm about forgiveness and compassion now, but that's something I can't forgive, but I can forget. In other words, I'm not acting upon it, and I don't wish anybody bad, but you got to look in the mirror and you got to deal with your own sins.
Well, we reap what we sow.
Yeah. And to me, that kind of loyalty is the worst sin you can have, betraying a friend. That's why they made Dante's Inferno, and that's the deepest part of hell. Informers of the family. And it's in my book.
And that's where all the rats are going, huh?
It's in my book.
I'm interested in reading this book. I can't wait. So another thing, again, we're kind of moving around here, but there's so many wonderful angles to your story. But another thing that we hear about on a vegan diet is, how, and you're pretty, like, looking at some of those prison photos, you're pretty jacked dude. Like, you've got some muscle mass. But people will say, how can you get enough on a plant-based diet?
Well, first of all, I've been taught rule number one when I get out. Camera angles and lighting are key to pictures. To be honest with you, it's tough. It's tough. So what I do is I drink protein drinks, plant-based protein drinks. And I love lentils, and lentils are a great source of protein. I eat nuts all day. It's not easy, but you don't need as much protein as people think. Like when I was away, I was trying to eat 1 gram, when I first went away, 1 gram of protein for every pound I weighed. So now I'm lucky if I get 80 grams or 100 grams of protein a day, and I weigh 240.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Yeah,
you're getting plenty.
For sure.
Yeah. But people don't, people living under the, like I see more guys out there, everybody out here is doing that meat and cheese diet. And they don't even understand what they're doing to their insides.
Are you serious? There's a meat and cheese diet?
Yeah, the keto diet, whatever it's called.
Oh, keto. I mean, carnivore. There's a carnivore diet.
Goodness gracious. Well, as the ancient scripture Bhagavad Gita says, we reap what we sow.
You guys, I see working out all the time in the pool and all that. How much protein do you guys eat a day?
To be honest, I
don't really count it, but maybe 30 to 40 grams.
And you guys got all that energy.
Yeah. But there's protein in everything. There's fat in everything. There's fat in kale. There's protein in kale. There's protein in everything. We've singled out this one thing, and we've put a lot of money in media and marketing behind it. And everybody thinks they need a lot of protein, but we don't.
I think a lot of it too.
But we also don't count calories or protein or anything like that. So maybe I get more, maybe I get less, but it's like intuitive. How do I feel? How am I performing? How am I recovering? And those are really my gauges.
Yeah. I've been slacking personally on the workouts and stuff because of, I'm doing my screenplay now. I got 4 producers waiting. COVID hit. When COVID hit, I was right. I was looking pretty good. And then COVID hit, the gym closed, and I had my routine get all disrupted. But now I'm trying to get it back. I've been doing a lot of juicing, the cleansing with the colon cleanse and stuff like that.
Routine. I just wanted to touch upon routine. So, and the fitness thing. So in prison, and I don't mean to keep going back there, but it seems like a long period of time. How important was routine, meaning like doing your exercises, spending some quiet time, right? Like how important was your routine? And then how did that shift? How did you deal with the shift when you made it back out?
Routine in prison is everything. It's what we live by. It's like the gospel. I would get up every morning, I'd go walk, come back, eat breakfast at the same time, take a little nap. Then I'd do an afternoon workout. And then certain prisons, like I would play handball. So it was like, we had a regimented time for everything. And the respect level, crazy to say, is so much higher in prison than out of prison. Like if we were going to meet to play handball and we meet your friend at noon, if you're there at 10 or 12:10 or 12:15, that's disrespect. My time is valuable. And I'd be like, we're in prison, who cares? But then you learn fast, respect is everything. So if you say 12 o'clock, be there. Out here, you could text somebody and they'll answer you and then they'll just disappear. And that's the most frustrating thing for me, is like getting adjusted to there's such a difference in people's mindset from in there to out here. But then, I'm so much happier to be out here and free and all that, but I'm still not with the thinking like I respect your time. So if you tell me 2 o'clock, I'm going to meet you or call you or whatever we agree to. But a lot of people out here are just so lackadaisical and, they don't respect other people's time. So that's been a hard adjustment.
Well, let's talk about time, right? Because, we feel like we have limitless time and we don't. it's
No.
such a false belief. Like, and as athletes, like you mentioned, and coaches, and just walking this spiritual life, like we need to act on those hits now. We can't delay it. We can't say, or some of us do say, you know, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week. And those are the moments that you really need to question how you're moving through this world. And we're not guaranteed tomorrow. Like, we're not guaranteed the next day. So, you know, I was listening to something the other day, which really resonated. And it's like, you know, when your time has come and you're like, oh, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to notify me when I would have some time, like that last week or the final 30 days of my life. And the response is always like, well, I just gave you 52 weeks alone in the last year to do stuff with your life. Do you take that to heart? Time?
Yeah, time is so precious. People, don't understand. A lot of people out here don't, because you haven't been where I was, right? And believe me, that's nothing to brag about. It's absolutely the opposite. But what I'm getting at is, people don't realize how valuable time is. You can never get time back. Like I constantly beat myself up over all the years I threw away doing what I did. So every moment is precious to me from here on in. But a lot of people don't realize that. If you love somebody, tell them you love them. Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might not ever happen. So people need to really, really, realize that time is everything. Like, people put too much value on money. There's so many more things more important than money. And I've learned that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not chasing the dollar. I don't really even advertise much my book. I have a clothing line. I hardly ever put it up anymore. I did at first, but, now my path got a little bit foggy, but now I'm back on the path I want to be on. I want to help people. I'm doing some life coaching. I became a life coach, right? I haven't made a penny. I've been doing it for free. If somebody can't afford it, DM me. I'll help you in time of need. I'll help you, because I know I'm going to shine. My abundance is coming. I put my heart and soul into that book. That book sold my life. I got 4 producers waiting, for my screenplay. Big producers. I don't want to say names, but big Hollywood producers are interested. My book is at the New York Times getting a review right now. I have such confidence in my book. I know that when I get my review, it's going to take off. But in the meantime, like I said earlier, I'm looking to help people. That's my mission. And I was taking care of this guy when I volunteered to take care of the sick and terminally ill, that guy Clark I was telling you about. And there was one thing I forgot he said was, always chase your dream. Don't make money not a priority. Chase your dream with your people, your family, your friends, whoever you find as a soulmate. And that's what's important. Because look at me, I'm lying here with nothing. I have days to live. So that resonated. So I don't care about money. I want to help people.
How did these producers get your book in their hands? Because they read your book and now they want you to do a screenplay, right?
Yeah. Friends are friends.
We'll just leave it at that. It's all about who you know. So you're in the process now of making it into a screen, because it was originally a screenplay. So Tell us how it's flip-flopped like this.
Okay. It was a screenplay. When I got out, a buddy of mine's daughter is a big shot in a studio. And I was talking to her, and she says, your next step, you need to make it into a book. So I spent the whole year, dedicated. And it was actually good that COVID hit, because I, put in crazy hours writing. Then I sent it to an editor. She edited it, sent it back to me. I edited it 5 more times because I'm a perfectionist. So I made my book, my project, my masterpiece. And so that's how it became a book. But I changed so much being out. I would carry a pen and paper around with me. And just talking to you guys, let's say I could come up with an idea. And then talking to somebody else, or just seeing something on the street that triggered me. Like, I'll give you a little hint. I was talking to somebody, and they were a psychologist, and they said to me, I can't believe how you don't have vengeance in your heart, and you don't want to do something to the people that put you away. And I said, I've changed. I'm not that guy anymore. But it clicked in my head, and now I added a therapist into my book. in a relation, and gave it another twist with the relationship from the lead actor. So, like what I'm getting at is I changed my book so much. Now I have to completely redo my screenplay that I originally had. But it made it so much better, like with real life experience, being out here, people, places, and things. So it's been a journey. It's been tough, but it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, I just, something huge is coming for you, like in the best way possible. And so you just keep your heart on service, and because that seems to really fulfill you. And I'm going to go order this book like right after our conversation, because I really want to read it.
When you just said that, since I completely opened my heart and just forgot about, pushing my book, my clothes. I don't even advertise for life coaching. In the last month or two, so many doors have opened for me. Like people just reaching out and being like, listen, your story is, unbelievable, whatever they say, inspirational. We want to do a documentary about you. They want to make a movie about me. Right? Are they okay? Are their heads plugged in?
Tell our listeners the story about you and me that you saw my Instagram.
Yeah.
I love that story.
I think you liked something I put up or something. And I saw her and I was like, you know what? I would love, because I saw the podcast thing. And I said, that day I was like, I was going to send her a message. Like, I'd love to be on your podcast. I want to spread my message, inspirational message. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be a haunt. You know what I mean? An hour later, I had a message from her saying, I love your inspirational message. But what I was going to say to her, she said to me, right? It's like I put it out to the universe. And I really think like positive people, positive vibes. We're not crossing this path for no reason. This was meant to be. You know what I mean?
100%.
Me here yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I hang out in that abyss of the universe. So I just caught that desire. I must have just caught it and it just threw it right back at you.
Yeah. And like today I was having an unbelievably bad day. I forgot my earbuds, whatever they're called, Bluetooth, whatever it is. Right? I'm so bad at, media and computers and all this new stuff to me because I had a flip phone when I went away. But anyways, I forgot it. And then I couldn't get on the original site we were supposed to do the interview. And then BJ said, if you want to cancel till another day, we can. And I was like, you know what? You guys are the only ray of sunshine I can see today. Like we talked before and you gave such positive vibes and such good people. I was like, nah, I need to talk to you guys. Cheer up. And here I am. Now I'm smiling again.
Oh my God. My cheeks hurt from smiling at you. I just absolutely love you so much. I want you to know that.
BJ, be careful.
I know. I got to keep it close.
I'm a Boston girl at heart. I'm just saying.
You're flying back east again?
I can give you some training sessions, Anthony. All right. So we want to rally around you. We love what you're doing. I love your story. As I just professed my love to you over the air. How can we support you? How can people, if this podcast is resonating with them, right? We don't want anybody to do anything out of obligation. If this is resonating with them, if they're like, whoa, I want more of this guy, like how can people help you build your community?
I need followers on Instagram. I'm about to launch another Instagram page too. I'll let you know when I put that out. It's called Prisontology. I want to start helping guys in prison. So it's going to be a website and I'm going to make a Instagram page with it. And I'm going to promote my book on there also. And I'm going to try to, to help people in prison, get deals, writing books, whatever I can help them with. So I want to reach out to guys in prison and start giving back to them. Because, in prison, you're limited to resources. If you're in prison and you don't have anybody to send you stuff and all that, you're screwed. Thank God I have my mom. I was fortunate, but I want to start giving back to guys in prison too. But I'm also like out here, I want to help people. If you need life coaching, I'm available. If you can't afford it, I can work with you, rates, whatever. Like I said, I haven't charged anybody a penny yet, but I got to survive. I got to live. Eventually I got to, the well's going to run dry. And believe me, the well is pretty dry already. You can't live this life on love, but I'm not looking for that 5,000 square foot house that I posted. I'm not looking for a Bentley. I'm happy driving my Jeep in my 1,000 square foot condo, but I'm concentrating on getting my book deal. in my movie deal and a series deal. You know what I mean? I already got the book. I shouldn't say book deal, but I hope I know my screenplay is going to sell, and I want to do well. I want my mother in a household where she's handicap accessible. We live in a 1,000 square foot condo. My poor mother has a wheelchair that's a little bit wide, but it's motorized. You would think a shark was in my condo biting the door frames because we got the skinny little door frames and the wheelchair just barely fits through. My mother's gone through so much. I just want to give her a nice home where she can pull a wheelchair into the shower and have a normal shower. Don't have to worry about door frames, like I said. Just like, so, if somebody wants to buy my book, it's a masterpiece. Buy it. If you don't want to, don't. You know what I mean? I'm not looking, I'm going to make my deal. I'm going to do my abundance. But to support me, stuff like that. I have a great clothing line, The Convicted Vegan. But I don't, like I said, if you look at my Instagram or Facebook page, I don't really promote anything because I already know, like, the universe is going to reward me, so
it's coming.
Follow me.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming, and it's already here.
Mm-hmm.
It's already here. And the rest of it's just streaming towards you. So yeah, I know that for the book, for the screenplay, for all of that, like, you're going to need to build that social media presence. So you guys, everybody who's listening, get over to Instagram and follow Anthony Bucci, The Convicted Vegan, for sure. Let's rally around this ray of light. Throw that right back at you, Anthony. Let's rally around him because this transformation is real and it's profound. And I believe it's, this turnaround is why you came here on this earth. So grateful to have you in our field and to be connected with you. I feel really, really grateful. Thank you so much for all your time today.
You guys, both of you are amazing.
Oh, relentlessly following our dreams.
That's all you can do. Never give up.
Yeah. Never give up.
Never give up. Be yourself.
Yeah. And that's what you can tell people too. I'm here to DM me if anybody's in a bad place. I was in the darkness so long. The darkness is, like I told you, my heart was black at one time. Now it's ruby red. I'm full of love. I want to help people. So that's what you can do. If you're in a bad place, reach out to me. Interact. I love interacting with people. I'm a gentleman. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I was in prison for 20 years. No, I was raised right. I got three daughters, my mom, 4 women in my life, and my girl, 5 women in my life. Female family. My son, he's 19. He's raised right. He's had one girlfriend for 4 years. So, I got surrounded by good people. So you don't have to worry. I'm, like I said, a gentleman. I interact well. I don't want women to think, if I'm having down and out and I'm not, I'm not going to DM this guy because he was in prison for 19 years. I'm not like that. No. People get funny. You can't blame them.
Yeah, but that's not your alignment. They're not even going to come in. You're not even going to come into their awareness. You're so anti-creep. Like, you're not a creep.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You might have been a ruthless thug. Oh my God.
I love dogs so much. I used to be one. No, I'm kidding.
All right, I have a question for you. This is how I want to end it. So you described yourself as a ruthless thug. How do you describe yourself now?
I always say it. Compassion is now my strength. I'm a gentleman all the way through. I'll help anyone, male or female or animal.
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. Anthony, thank you so much for your time today. Again, we're super grateful. I can't say it enough. And let's stay connected for sure.
Absolutely. Much respect. And when you come to Boston, BJ, come with her. We'll all go out.
All right.
I'll bring my girl.
Yeah, well, we're going to need a chaperone, you and me, Anthony. All right. Stay well, my friend.
Okay.